Okay, hello everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? So, lots to talk about today. Today, I want to spend the time going over this vile stunt pulled off by Ron DeSantis and Texas Governor Greg Abbott, where they essentially defrauded a group of migrants and possibly broke the law by flying them to Martha's Vineyard under false pretenses. If you're wondering why I sound a little weird, it is because I unfortunately have been exposed to COVID. So that is a little messed up. I took a chance and went to a Weird Al Yankovic concert, which was awesome. It was totally cool this past weekend. And I had a good time, and my wife tested positive on 2 days later on Tuesday. And she's doing really well. She's gotten over the worst of it. She had a fever and was coughing and all that stuff, and now her fever's gone, which is great. It took about 3. She's still coughing and stuff, but it's like she's like way better than she was a few days ago. For me, unfortunately, I don't know what's going to happen. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat. And I feel a little lethargic. But I don't have a fever. I don't have a headache. I don't have... I'm not really... I coughed a few times, but not a lot. And I have a little bit of mucus going. But that's it. So, I don't know. To be honest, yesterday I was feeling a little worse. My throat felt a little worse than it does today. Like it was actually more raw. And then today it's like almost normal. I was debating whether I should stream today. I do kind of feel a little down in the dumps though. You know what I mean? So I might be sniffling a little bit during this. I might have to cough once in a while. But if this is all it is, I'll be grateful. I'm hoping that I don't wake up tomorrow with like 103 fever and like sweating buckets and have to go on a fucking respirator or whatever. You know what I mean? I am triple vaccinated. Vaccinated. Both vaccines and then both shots and then a booster. Right. I'm actually too young to get the 4th booster, from what I understand. So. Should be okay, if this is it, then that means the vaccines fucking work, because I'm really not feeling that bad. Like, I wouldn't take today off at work if I was working. I wouldn't, then again, I work from home, but you know what I'm saying. I wouldn't, like, go and expose people to this, but before we get started, everybody please, out there, like and subscribe, all that stuff, And let's take a look at what we're working on. So we have our hideous demon guy that has too much detail in his leg. I think I'll get rid of some of this detail here later, but we'll work on this part of the right leg here for now. Slowly coming together though, right? I think it actually looks pretty good. The thing about it is that when you have something like this with like huge amounts of detail, sometimes it can get a little washed out. So you want to you don't want to overdo it, because then your eye sort of doesn't settle on the important parts. And that's why I'm thinking maybe I'll reduce some of it a little bit. But still looking pretty good. Your eyes are still generally drawn towards the head and the face and the eyes and all that. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get this shindig on the road here. Martha's Vineyard. Where is it and what the hell happened, right? Well, I'm sure you guys have all heard about this. I was going to talk about this in the last week's stream, but kind of ran out of time. What happened? Ron DeSantis, the esteemed governor of Florida, got together with Greg Abbott, who is the governor of Texas. They chartered a couple of airplanes from a wealthy GOP donor. Spent roughly $12 million of the taxpayers' money doing this, and decided that they were going to pull a stunt. And this stunt was to send over about roughly 50 migrants from Texas through Florida over to Martha's Vineyard. So where the hell is Martha's Vineyard? Martha's Vineyard is an island in Massachusetts where Barack Obama lives. Hang on, folks. My cat wants to go outside. Give me 1 second. Come here, kitty. All right, come on. Out you go. Out. No, come here. Come here. Out. Come on. Get. Sorry about that. Did not see him in the room there when we started. Usually I don't like having my pets in the room because they have a tendency to jump on my lap or jump on my keyboard and mess stuff up when I'm streaming. So anyway, maybe one of these days I'll do a stream where I show you my cats. My cats are awesome. So yeah, they decided to pull a stunt and send over a bunch of migrants over to Martha's Vineyard. Why did they do this exactly? Well, the GOP does not have really anything of substance to offer anyone anymore. And they've pretty much demonstrated that they just really do not have any policies that help anybody. They're not interested in helping normal people. Their policies are weighted exclusively towards the rich and the powerful. You know, if you're a multinational corporation that gives them lots of money, then yeah, they help you out all the time, right? Then they'll be at your beck and call. They'll pass whatever law you want. They'll personally intervene on your behalf in order to make sure that that grift train keeps going. But if you're a normal person, you might as well just give up. Forget it. You're not getting any help from these guys. They don't give a shit about you. Unless, of course, you're a little baby fetus, in which case they'll bend heaven and earth, disobey every tenet of the Constitution possible, twist around the law as much as they can, and screw everyone and everything in order to make sure that you're actually born. But once you get born, forget it. You know, you could just go piss off a rope. You know, once you actually come out of that womb and are out there in the streets or whatever, and you need some help, you know, maybe like, say, an education or some health care, something like that, they don't want to talk to you. They don't give a shit about you after that part. It's like only when you're a fetus. After you're no longer a fetus, you might as well not exist. And that's kind of what all the GOP has at this moment. And they very well demonstrated that this is all they give a shit about. And this is what they decided to run on. And that has been kind of backfiring lately, especially since they kind of went a little crazy and decided to repeal Roe versus Wade. Since then, their chances of doing well in the midterms have shifted a lot. So traditionally in any midterm, any presidential midterm, right, the president of the United States is not up for election during the midterm, so turnout is lower, right? And usually the party that does not have the presidency is the one that loses out during the midterms. That's kind of just the pattern, you know. The people that won the presidency kind of get a little complacent, right? People who lost get angry, and so the opposing party has more motivation. They go out and they vote more. And that was kind of what it was looking like during this midterm. You know, it looked like the Republicans were going to take the House and the Senate and spend, you know, basically turn Joe Biden's remaining 2 years into a lame duck session where nothing actually gets done. The same thing that they did to, you know, Barack Obama, and also, let's be fair, the same thing that the Democrats did to Donald Trump. That's just politics, baby, right? Well, since the proverbial dog caught the car with abortion, now it looks like people are starting to turn against him. Now people are realizing, hey, the GOP doesn't give a shit about us, right? And the Democrats and the liberals and the progressives are getting motivated. They're finally starting to realize that, you know, unchecked Republican power will lead directly to fascism, essentially. Right? They're starting to realize that, hey, these people don't care about us. All they care about is taking away rights. And if we allow them to remain in power, they already took away abortion. What else are they going to take away? They're going to take away gay marriage? They're going to take away contraception? Are they going to take away interracial marriage? These are all things, that are not codified in law anywhere. There's no law that says a state has to recognize interracial marriage, for example. There's no law that says a state has to allow, conception, birth control. Right. There's no law about, these are all things that were won through court cases. Right. I mean, birth control in particular was something that for decades and decades and decades, advocates were trying to get passed. It used to be back in the day, if you sold condoms to somebody and you did it in the wrong place, you could go to prison for that, for obscenity. It would be obscenity, or it would be basically the same law where they cite today, where if you buy like alcohol for a kid, like if you buy beer for a teenager, it's essentially the same law. Right? They used to apply that to condoms, contributing to the delinquency of a, of a fucking, except not delinquency of a minor, it would be delinquency of a, like sexual immorality or some shit. Not the same law, but related, essentially like related, right? That used to be a thing, and I mean, it used to be illegal to have like an interracial marriage as well. And you would be in one state, like say, Massachusetts or something, or Hawaii or something, and your marriage would be fine. And then you'd go to Alabama and your marriage like wouldn't be legally recognized, right? And shit like that. It's like there's no law that says one state has to legally recognize a marriage from another state. So these are all things won through court cases, right? Republicans want to take all that shit away. Right. People are starting to realize this now. People are starting to realize, hey, the fucking Republicans are a bunch of scumbags that are going to literally take away your rights. And so there's some Democratic motivation going into this next election. I mean, we're roughly a month and a half away from the next election, right? So this, getting back to the Martha Stewart thing, how does this all relate? Well, since they don't have anything of substance policy-wise that they can demonstrate, how they want to help people, the Republicans have instead been relying on stunts. And this is basically a stunt, right? In order to motivate their base. Well, the GOP's base is motivated through fear and hatred. Right? This is how they're motivated. They're motivated through fear, hatred, and poning the libs. And that's essentially, they've seen that through Trump or whatever, they've seen that this is how they get their best results, when they act like assholes, which was the theme of my stream last week. Republicans are assholes, right? So this particular little scheme was basically meant to stick it to the libs. We're gonna, and what is the main thing that the GOP in particular always falls back on every time there's an election? Immigration. Right. Immigration. In particular, illegal immigration. And, they've created this myth that whenever a Democrat is in office, somehow they just open up the borders and allow people to just walk into the country. There's really no truth to that whatsoever. If you actually look at what's going on, since August of last year, over from this August back to like August of 2020, somewhere in the area of 1.5 million people have been deported from the United States. Right. Now, when you say that, that should tell you that there's something wrong going on. Why are 1.5 million people trying to come to the United States in the first place? Illegally. Right. What does that tell you? That tells you that, you would wonder if so many people were migrating from one continent to another like that. I mean, is there a problem down there? Right? You would think you would try to focus on, well, what's going on in Venezuela? What's going on in Colombia? In Mexico, in Guatemala? Why are all these people coming here? Right? What's going on down in those countries that is making life dangerous or unbearable or unfeasible, right? And the simple thing is, I mean, there's all kinds of shit happening. There's violence, drug violence, shit like that, cartels and paramilitaries and all kinds of bad shit. But the big reason why is because this is where all the jobs are, right? I used to, like, I've said this story before, but, it's relevant. I used to correspond back in the days with a guy that lived in Argentina, right? He was a college professor, and we were both part of this video game message board called the Assembler, Home of the Obscure. It was about basically prototypes in video games and stuff like that. Assemblers is no longer around, unfortunately. It was one of the best little tight-knit communities when it came to like rare video games and stuff back in the day, right? Anyway, he was a guy that, was a college professor in Argentina. And this was maybe around 2002, right? 2001, 2002. And I used to talk to this guy, through the message board. We used to like chat and stuff like that. And I found out that he made roughly the equivalent of $700 a month, right? As a college professor. And he goes $700 a month. Okay, not per paycheck, not a week, a month. $700 a month, right? 350 of that went to his rent. Okay, this is what this guy made. He was a college professor. He wasn't like, he was an actual, like, guy with like a fucking, accredited, right? Went to school for 5-6 years, however long it takes to get that accreditation. Right, I don't think he had a PhD or anything, but, not just some poor schleb working at a fucking, like, counter someplace wearing a paper hat, right? That was me, okay? Back in 2001, I worked at a Starbucks and making people ice quad venti non-fat lattes and shit and cleaning toilets. Guess what, folks? I made way more than $700 a month, right? And even me, like, I made something around, including the tips, I made $2,500, something like that, which was like, because I worked nearly full-time. They don't give you full-time at a job like that. And that got me thinking, even way back then, I'm like, damn, I'm working at a job that literally any pleb off the street can walk in and take my job. And I'm making like more than twice what this college professor is making as a professional in this other country, right? If our roles were reversed, I would go to the country where the money was at. Excuse me. Ugh. And you would too. You would too. And so would Ben Shapiro, so would Ron DeSantis, so would Laura Ingraham, so would fucking Sean Hannity, and everybody else out there who bitches and moans about illegal immigrants and migrants and all this other stuff. Every single one of them, if you could make a living in another country doing something very doing something like working a cash register, and you can make like 3, 4, 5 times the amount of money that you could being a professional with a respected job that mattered, an important respected job, you would do the same fucking thing, right? That's how bad it is down there, okay? That's what it is. And we're not even talking about drug cartels or, we're not even talking about any of that, or violence, sectarian violence. That's a thing, South America. Brazil has like tons and tons of crime, or cartels that go in and kidnap people, hold them for ransom, shit like that. We're not even talking about any of that stuff, okay? Just talking about the economic, and this is just the fact, and this is how it's been. And, the thing is that, okay, well, in Argentina, $700 might be, a livable wage, right? But it wasn't, Remember, half of his wage went to his fucking rent. It's like, how are you supposed to, like, save up and, live your decent life and, save up for retirement and shit like that and ever possibly think of owning a house? How are you supposed to do any of that stuff? How are you supposed to raise a family when half your money goes to your rent? Right. Not even owning the fucking place. You're renting. How are you supposed to do that? You can't. Okay? It's not possible. Well, these are normal people. These are normal people with families and children and shit. And they want the same things that we have. In the United States, it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy to survive here because it isn't. I mean, the fact that we have, an entire nation full of homeless people, just reinforces that fact that it's not easy to live in the United States, but it's possible. It's possible to work your ass off, get a good job, right? And get your living situation down and actually make enough money. Maybe, maybe not by yourself. Maybe you got to have two incomes or whatever, but still, it's possible to achieve that American dream here still, where they say, you want the house and the car and the 2.5 kids and the dog and all that shit. Might not, it might be easier for some people than others because of class and income and, all kinds of other factors, that kind of thing. But it's possible. You can do it. You can do it if you work hard. That's the American dream. And these people want a piece of that because that does not exist in their countries, right? You know what a maquiladora is in South America, or well, mainly in Mexico, right? But I know that they have them in other places. Maquiladoras are essentially sweatshops, right? They are very common in Mexico, where you'll make something like $1.25 a day, usually doing things like sewing clothes, stuff like that. And often taking the bus to get to work costs you between 80 cents to $1. So it's like most of these people that, you got to remember when these people are being exploited, when you're working like that in a sweatshop, barely making enough to even fucking survive, right? Like, who wants to stay in that situation? Would you stay in that situation? I wouldn't. I'd take the risk. It's not easy to come to the United States for these people, right? Some of these people, like you see these migrant trains and shit that Fox News only gives a fuck about whenever there's an election, right? Some of these people straight up walk through, 6, 7, 8, 9 different countries in order to come to the United States so that they can request asylum and then just ultimately be turned down. Remember, the majority of the people that come here requesting asylum get turned down, right? So, anyway, this makes the thing that Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott did, this makes their scheme all the more despicable and wrong, right? So what exactly did these assholes do? Okay, because you're seeing it everywhere. And basically, the right wing here, if you go on, say, the Donald.win or something, or Patriots.win, or the conservative parts of Reddit, are conservative, whatever, they're laughing about it. They're saying that, it was, they showed them good, all these people that got deported, blah, blah, blah. And they're treating it as, just another poning the liberals thing. The way that they're basically saying, Ron DeSantis, he exposed the liberal hypocrisy when it comes to immigration, right? Well, what exactly happened? Okay. Thank you for the like, whoever's watching. Thank you so much for the like. So there were 50 migrants that originally came over in San Antonio. They were enticed by a migrant woman named, what was her name? I got it right here. Perla. Okay. So these were people that basically came to the United States legally, right? As asylum seekers, right? People who are looking for asylum because they want to get jobs and are claiming that if they go back home to where they live, that they'll be essentially murdered or persecuted in some way. Right, that's basically what an asylum seeker is. Versus, these people were not illegal, undocumented immigrants. They didn't jump the fence, right? They didn't go to Trump's border wall and, walk through the broken slats and shit and come into the United States illegally and not tell anybody. They presented themselves at a point of entry, right? Because that's what a asylum seeker is. Someone that legally presents themselves at a point of entry, gets documented, and then has to go through the asylum seeking process, which can take, months, right? So that's what these people were. They were not not illegal aliens. That's the thing that all the Republicans and the chuds are going to tell you, that these were like, criminal illegals. No, that's not who these people were. Anyway, so they sent out this woman named Perla to what happens. So what happens? Right? Let me go back a little further. Okay, what happens is that when you're seeking asylum, you have to present yourself at a point of entry. You turn yourself over to the immigration, right? Border Patrol. And you get assigned a case. And what happens is that they do a background check on you to make sure you're not a criminal or a drug dealer or something, right? And then you have an interview with an officer who acts as sort of like your caseworker, an asylum officer, right? And it can take up to 21 days, and they basically make a decision. And I didn't know it was that easy. I thought you had to go before a judge and all this stuff. Not really. Not if you're seeking asylum, right? You just sort of open this case with a immigration officer who acts as your asylum sort of like person, right? And then they determine if you meet the status of a refugee, right? Well, what is a refugee? A refugee is somebody who basically will get murdered if they go back to where they came from. Someone who was fleeing their country because of threats of violence. I actually got it right here. Let me see. I thought I wrote it down. Did I write it down? Basically, someone who's part of on account of your race or your religion or your ethnic group, or political opinion. If you go back home, then you'll be like persecuted or murdered, right? And this also includes people who are forced to get abortions, which I think that part is only in the law in order to accommodate for people that are fleeing China's one-child policy. But I don't even know if China still has the one-child policy, but that might be like a remnant of that, because I was like, wow, like who the hell is forcing people to get abortions? That doesn't make any sense. Now, usually it's like people are forced to carry the child, not forced to get abortions, right? So, but that's part of the law too, right? And they basically determine, do you meet this definition of a refugee? If you go back, are you going to get killed? And what they say is like, yeah, well, the drug cartels are going to fucking murder me if I go back. And that can actually be a valid reason. The reality of the situation is that most people get denied refugee status. So this is just what happens. And it's become a tactic that, basically a lot of people who are coming here for work are claiming, trying to claim that they're refugees, and they're getting turned down. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. And that's a major problem with the United States immigration process. There should be a way that anybody so conceivably, right, just as a little side tangent, if you want to immigrate somewhere, you should be able to do it, right, in my opinion. I don't know why you need a reason. Like, there's some places in the world will only allow you to immigrate if you can demonstrate a certain skill, whatever. They don't want useless people coming to their country, and they want people that are going to, like, spurn their economies and create jobs and shit like that. And it's like, yeah, okay, I understand that. I understand, okay, well, you don't just let anybody in. You let people who are educated and have qualifications, and, and this is why rich people are allowed to go to any fucking country they want, because they can demonstrate that they're going to contribute to the economy or whatever. I think it should be the other way. I think also, because what do these people represent? They represent labor, right? Well, if we're going to allow capital to go across state lines with very few restrictions, how come we don't allow labor to also go across state lines with the same few restrictions? If all the capital is leaving your country, then the labor should be allowed to follow where the capital is. I mean, that just sounds like, that sounds like fucking capitalism to me, right? Doesn't that sound like capitalism? That people go where the money is? That kind of, I mean, shit, if we're going to be capitalists, let's be capitalists all the way, and also allow the labor part of that to also engage in capitalism. Don't you agree? If not, then okay, tell me why. Tell me why I shouldn't be allowed to go to a country where the jobs are. You know? What? Like, how does that fucking fit in with anything? It's bullshit. It's basically what it is bullshit, right? And it's basically, the reason why we don't allow these people in the country is because of racism. That's the real fucking reason. Right? Because the thing is that, our economy is somewhat dependent on the free labor, on the cheap labor. Having cheap labor in our farm sector and our meat packing sector, stuff like that, keeps food costs down. That's kind of a subject for another video, but it's sort of true. And this is the reason why anytime you see from the GOP when they talk about, restricting, trying to stop illegal immigration, they never take the stance that, regulating the businesses that hire illegal immigrants is the way to go. Because you could stop illegal immigration tomorrow if you wanted. All you'd have to do is say, okay, if you hire an illegal immigrant in this country, then you get a 15-year prison sentence. Bam. The end. That shit'll end overnight. Right? They won't do that. They won't do that because they, especially the Republicans won't do that because they know that we need the labor. Right? So this is why they do shit like, we'll just take away their children. Right? This is why the GOP, all of their solutions, quote unquote, for this illegal immigration problem has to do with punishing the illegal immigrant. The immigrant, the undocumented person, has to do with punishing them, and nothing to do with actually stopping the business that fucking exploits these people. Right? So let's remember they're hypocrites all the way down. Everybody involved in this. Hypocrites all the way down. The Republicans and to some extent Democrats as well. But, the Democrats actually have a little bit of, what's their solution to these things? Well, they want things like a pathway to citizenship, and they want, that kind of thing. It's like the only solutions we're actually getting are coming from the fucking Democratic Party. Because the GOP, the Republicans, all they have is hatred. Right. Anyway, enough tangents. So, getting back to what happened here, right? Basically, this woman named Perla, getting back to the actual event. Sorry, I just went on like 3 different tangents here. I'll try not to do that going forward. This woman named Perla went to various places where the migrants were hanging out, trying to get jobs. Offered them money. Said, hey, if you come with us to this, if you take this free plane ticket to Boston, when you get there, there will be resources that will help you. You'll get money, you'll get jobs, there will be places where you can live. And she handed out $10 McDonald's gift cards to these people. And some people even straight up gave them cash, bribed them to go on this, right? And promised them all these things that ultimately turned out to not be true. So they round up 50 people, right, under false pretenses. They charter a couple of private airplanes from a rich Republican donor, which I was not able to find out who that is yet, and use $12 million of the taxpayers' money in Florida. And this is where the crime part comes in, right, because that's illegal. You're not allowed to fucking do that. Right. That part. And you're also not allowed to basically fucking lie to people. It's like a con artist. This is like con artist shit right here, right? From the fucking governor of Florida, the governor of Texas, right? Anyway, and they flew them to Martha's Vineyard. Well, why did they choose Martha's Vineyard, right? Because Barack Obama lives there, and Kamala Harris has like a summer house there. And Martha's Vineyard has sort of become this sort of boogeyman. You know how like all of the chuds and the fucking red hat wearing maggots and all those people, they all hate California, right? They think California is a liberal hellhole that, if you misgender someone, then like the fucking like pronoun police are gonna show up and throw you in jail. Like that's what they think, right? Martha's Vineyard is sort of like the East Coast equivalent of that. It's where the supposedly snooty, rich ivory tower liberals live, drinking their, cappuccinos and eating shit like leeks vegetables that no red-blooded American has any business eating. Right. And eating their hamburgers with spicy mustard and that kind of thing. They think that they go, yeah, that's Martha's Vineyard. That's where all the fucking out of touch, liberals live. And the whole point basically was to send these people over there so that they could get a reaction. Because in addition to sending these people over, right, Ron DeSantis had the foresight to include a cameraman along with the crew, right? So that's the thing. It wasn't just, because what he's going to say, they're going to say shit like, oh, well, this was just us sending these people to a sanctuary city or whatever so they can get better services. But that's not true. The whole thing was a plan. They sent a cameraman in order to get people's reactions, right? Because what they wanted to happen is they wanted these people to show up at Martha's Vineyard, and they wanted them to be shunned and have they wanted to get the reaction of the rich people that live there, the rich liberals that live there, when they called the cops on them and stuff, and had all of these people like forcibly removed from the island. Because remember, Martha's Vineyard is a very small island that only has something like 1,600 people that live there. It's mainly summer houses and shit. It's kind of like Catalina. I don't know if you've ever been in outside of Los Angeles. There's Catalina Island. It's sort of the same thing, but Catalina is not as rich, But it's like basically, we're gonna send them to Kamala Harris's house, see how she likes it, right? That was the whole plan, and then they were gonna take this footage and like use it in political ads and stuff, for the election, because the only thing they have is hatred, right? This is the only thing they have to fucking run on. You ever notice how all the migrant caravans and shit only show up during election times? And then after the election, they're just gone, and nobody gives a fuck about them anymore? Same kind of thing. They're basically trying to take back the news cycle, and I'm happy to say that it spectacularly blew up in their fucking faces. Because they're a bunch of hateful assholes, and people are starting to see through the fucking facade, finally. Right? So anyway, they of course did not call ahead to Martha's Vineyard. They just showed up. And fortunately for the migrant workers, the people of Martha's Vineyard came together, and they got the exact opposite reaction than what Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis were looking for. Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott were looking for them to panic, call the cops, and for it to be a giant shit show, right? And what ended up happening is the people came together, donated their time and their money. They gave money to these people. They found temporary housing for them. I believe they got a church and set up a bunch of like cots and places for them to sleep. They made food for them. They donated clothes. There was a used clothing store, donated a shitload of clothes to these people. They got them medical care. Apparently a couple of people actually needed medical care, and you could see it, and they got it for free. They fed them. And then, they ultimately, the governor of Massachusetts sent over the National Guard to help get these people processed, because they were supposed to go to an immigration center, where they can continue on with the process of becoming, a legal asylum seeker, right? So it kind of went the exact opposite of what Ron DeSantis wanted. And not only that, apparently there were too many people volunteering. Apparently so many people were volunteering that they had to turn them down. So there you go, fucking Ron DeSantis. Right? And Greg Abbott. That's what happens when you actually, when people actually care about human beings. Unlike you two fucking pieces of shit. So, I want to play this video, right? Because this is a video that is definitely quite worth watching, because it pretty much just shows how despicable this actually was, right? So let me put this down in the chat for you guys. This is actually from Brian Tyler Cohen, who is part of he's part of the TYT network, right? So that's what we're going to be watching right here. And just the first 4 minutes, and this is, let me turn on my stuff here real quick. Let's get my laptop window. Let's make this smaller so I don't get YouTube striked. Okay. Real quick. And then full screen. So this is a attorney who's representing these people here, who's going to explain to us what the hell actually happened and why this is doubly bad. You may have seen this footage already, but it's worth watching again. Here we go.
Last night make it clear that they were lied to again and again and fraudulently induced to board the planes. They were told there was a surprise present for them and that there would be jobs and housing awaiting for them when they arrived. This was obviously a sadistic lie. Not only did those responsible for this stunt know that there was no housing and no employment awaiting the migrants, they also very intentionally chose not to call ahead to any single office authority on Martha's Vineyard so that even the most basic human needs arrangements could be made, ensuring that no help awaited the migrants at all was the entire point.
Yeah, remember, they had a guy there with a camera. Right, there was a guy there with a camera. So that's what they wanted. They wanted to get reactions of the evil tree-hugging liberals in Martha's Vineyard losing their minds and calling the police on these people. This is what they wanted footage of people slamming their doors on them, calling the cops on them, stuff like that, so that they could call them hypocrites. That was the entire point of this. So they specifically did not call ahead and say, hey, we're sending these people your way. Nope. Moving on.
They were provided with a cartoonishly simple map of Martha's Vineyard and the United States and a brief brochure containing snippets from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts website and instructions to change their address with USCIS when they relocated. This is especially troubling as anyone with even the most basic understanding of the immigration proceedings knows that USCIS was not the agency with whom the migrants would have to record their addresses.
All right, this part's very important, so I just want to make sure I want to emphasize this part because this is if you're wondering why people are losing their minds over this, it's this part right here.
And has nothing to do with their cases in any way. It is clear that this was an intentional attempt to ensure that these migrants were removed in absentia when they failed to change their address with the proper agency. This was a purposeful derailment designed to prevent people from complying with federal immigration policies. This is problematic because the state should not be interfering with federal immigration policy.
So, what does that mean exactly, right? It's hard enough to, your chances of being accepted as a refugee and getting political asylum in the United States are extremely low, right? Usually doesn't happen. For example, if you're from Venezuela, since the United States does not have official diplomatic relationship with Venezuela, you get sent back automatically. It doesn't matter. They just send you back. So, it's already tough, right? So Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott purposely lied to these people, told them to go to the wrong agency to change their address, right? So that when the agencies that you're supposed to change your address with try to contact them, they don't get a response. Well, if you don't answer the summons or whatever, to go have your interview, right, then your case gets thrown out and you get deported. They did that on purpose. They basically sabotage these people. Some of these people who have walked, from fucking, Guatemala. Imagine walking all that distance. How long would that take you? Months. Years, even. People who have been, basically fucking hitchhiking and straight up walking thousands of miles to finally come here to get, the chance at a better life. right? Just to get screwed over because some fucking pig-headed piece of shit Republican asshole is trying to get back the news cycle. Way to ruin somebody's fucking life, Ron DeSantis. You piece of shit. That's the thing. Ron DeSantis is a piece of shit. Let's remember, what these people did here is extremely messed up. Right? Ron DeSantis, Greg Abbott, and everybody involved in this from their side are giant pieces of shit who should not be in charge of anything. Right? If they'll treat these people like this, what do you think? How do you think they're going to treat you when the time comes when you need help? Are they going to help you? Fuck no, they're not going to help you. Moving on.
Before they boarded the planes, the migrants were processed by agents of the Department of Homeland Security, who listed falsified addresses on the migrants' paperwork. Agents apparently chose random homeless shelters all across the country, from Washington to Florida, to list the migrants' mailing addresses, even when told by the migrants that they had no address in the U.S. According to the paperwork provided to them, the migrants are required to check in with ICE office nearest to the fake address chosen for them by DHS or be permanently removed from the United States, with some required to check in as early as this coming Monday.
So there you go. They came in, they said, hey, you know, and here's the thing, right? This means that there were immigration officers who were in on this scheme. ICE agents did this, right? Put down fake addresses for these people. So they basically went in and they said, hey, do you have an address? No, I don't. And so the ICE people put down random homeless shelters around the country. Well, what's going to happen, right? They're going to get the mail, you know, they're going to get a thing in the mail saying, okay, you have to check in, you know, you have to check in at this place at this certain time, right? It's going to go to that address. They're not going to be there, right? And like she said, they're required to check in at the nearest office according to those addresses. Well, it's like you're in Boston. They put down a fucking address in Arizona at a homeless shelter. You got 3 days to get there. How the fuck are you supposed to get there? All right. If you don't show up, your case gets thrown out. You get deported. They did it on purpose to fuck these people up. It's the mess. It's incredibly messed up. It's like it's basically fraud. They basically ruined their chances of you know. And remember, these people were doing everything legally. They were obeying the law, right? These are not illegal aliens. These are not people who were smuggled in through a truck or something like that. You know, who paid a coyote to come over illegally, smuggling drugs and shit. These are people that presented themselves and did what the law said you're supposed to do. And the ICE officers fucked them up. I really, really hope someone is investigating who these ICE officers are and firing these pieces of shit. That's you should, I mean, at the very least, you should be fired for that. You know, I think you should be thrown in fucking prison for that. That's like abuse of power right there. That's kind of like if that's like a cop planting evidence on you. That's, to me, that's the exact same shit. So, I hope that someone's opening an investigation. I hope that, you know, the Biden administration is like sending down a directive because ICE is part of the executive branch and basically saying, what the fuck is going on down there? Who did this? I want their heads on a goddamn platter. Right? Because this is incredibly fucked up. Unbelievable. Moving on.
It could not be clearer that this is an attempt to ensure that these people are ordered removed, even as they try as hard as they can to comply with the instructions provided to them. There is no other reason to list as someone's mailing address a homeless shelter in Tacoma, Washington, when they ship him to Massachusetts. It is sickeningly cruel, throwing obstacles in the way of people fleeing violence and oppression, some of whom walked through 10 countries in the hopes of finding safety. It is shameful and inhuman. Many of these victims were deprived of medical care despite clear existing injuries. These are human beings who were deprived of basic human rights. To the people who find themselves these wonderful people who find themselves plane wrecked on our island, I have a message for all of them. You are not alone. We have your backs. We are proud to be here for you. And we've got you. If the intention of those who perpetrated this horrendous act was to create a crisis, you have failed. Their demeanor is kind, their demeanor is grateful, and their demeanor is just that they want to be doing everything right. Their biggest concern today is that many of them have dates to appear in San Antonio Monday morning, Tacoma, Washington Monday morning, Washington, D.C. Monday morning. You tell me how that's possible.
We will be exploring all.
Anyway, folks, so yeah, you can see how doubly fucked up this whole thing was. Let's turn this off. Right. That this wasn't just a stunt. This is, you know, a stunt where it's like, oh, we'll just straighten everything out, and oh, the damn liberals, blah, blah, blah. No. This is like ruining somebody's life. That's how fucked up this is. Right. Excuse me. Throat is a little bit scratchy. Like I said, you know what? I have these throat cough drops here. Sorry, I need to suck on one of these guys. So anyway, Ron DeSantis, for his part, has just cracked a whole shitload of jokes about this. Let's listen to what Ron DeSantis has to say about some of this stuff. Let me just open that back up. Fuck you, Ron DeSantis. Give me 1 second. Let's see what he's got to say about all of this. Here he is. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaks about migrants in Martha's Vineyard. Okay. Let me go ahead and copy this link and put it down in the chat so that you guys can follow along. Let's see what he has to say for himself, because you know I've been calling him all these names and stuff. It's only fair that we get to give him a chance to defend himself, wouldn't you say?
I also was a little bit perplexed when I heard that the president is scrambling to get his cabinet together to try to address the fact that you have governors who are helping to relocate illegal aliens to sanctuary cities.
See, they're laughing about it. They're laughing about it. The people are cheering, right? Remember, this is like 1 or 2 days after, right? When it hit big in the news, right? His people are cheering, filleting him over this, sucking his dick. Oh, Ron DeSantis, you're so smart and funny. Right. Any remorse from this guy whatsoever? Zero. Any remorse? Look at all of these fucking, like, smiling little sycophantic bastards. Any of these people even, like, consider those people as human beings? No. Moving on.
He didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when we had millions of people illegally pouring across the southern border. He didn't scramble to get his cabinet together when you had 53 migrants die in some trailer in Texas because they were neglected by the federal government. You didn't see him scramble to...
Okay. So I actually know what happened there. So first off, when he said, oh, when you have millions of people crossing the border, right? Please remember these people are asylum seekers. They did not cross the border illegally, right? These people are not illegals. They are here legally. They have a right to be here. The law says they have a right to be here. All right? Ron DeSantis is the one who broke the fucking law here, not these people. Let's remember that. Okay, so whenever you hear the first defense you hear from any MAGA asshole is always, well, these are illegal aliens, blah, blah, blah. Fuck you, they're not illegal. Right? Not these people. Secondly, why does he say, you know, he noticed he just blamed because there is a problem with illegal immigration. I'm not going to say there isn't a problem, because there is. He just blamed it on Joe Biden, Joe Biden's policies are allowing millions of people to cross over into the, you know, to invade our border. They always like to use that word invade. You know, makes it sound like the fucking Ruskies are coming or something. Right? Get to capitalize a little bit on that vestigial Cold War fear. Because, the invasion, it's a southern invasion of the border. Right? Like I just said, over the last year, 1.7 million people were deported under Joe Biden. That's just the last year, okay? Secondly, when Republicans were in charge for 4 years, they didn't do jack shit to stop illegal immigration. They built an idiotic cartoon vanity project border wall that fell apart the instant the wind blew too hard. Right? It's in shambles now. If you didn't know that, the border wall, it's like the wall that Trump built is fucking, like, destroyed. You know? Some places there was like a storm and it just fell over. Because, it was built all cheap and shit. Right? So that's their fucking solution. Their fucking solution is to steal money. Remember, the money for the border wall, Donald Trump stole that money from other projects where it was already allotted to, which is also illegal. You're not allowed to do that. Once Congress controls the purse strings. And once money is allotted to a program, it has to go to that program. Donald Trump completely ignored all that. And just took money from, various other national defense projects in order to build this dumbass border wall, and got away with it completely scot-free because Democrats are pussies and Republicans are fucking criminals. And that's why he got away with it. So let's remember that. They don't have a solution, right? Their solution is blaming all the problems on Democrats. It's like, oh yeah, okay. So before Joe Biden became president, there were no illegal aliens, and now there suddenly is. Get the fuck out of here. It's been a problem for 50 years. As long as I can remember. People were talking about this shit when I was in grade school, for crying out loud. It's been a problem that long, right? But you'll notice one thing. When they say, there's an invasion of the southern border, it's always like Florida or Texas or Arizona, something like that. In California, right, just as many illegal immigrants come here. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, right? Every single Home Depot I go to has like 5 or 6 dudes hanging out in front of it looking for day labor. Right outside of the city, there's lots of farmland, in Ventura and stuff like that. Hundreds of migrant workers out there picking strawberries and stuff. Where do you think those people came from? You notice there's no migrant crisis in California. It's not a crisis here. Nobody's flying, Gavin Newsom is not flying, migrants to other cities and shit in order to avoid this crisis. Why is it only a crisis in the red states? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. It's because of racism. That's the real answer. Let's move on. Let's listen to a little bit more of what this piece of shit has to say before we finally give up in disgust.
To get his cabinet together when we had Americans that were victimized by criminal aliens that he led across the border. You didn't see him
criminal aliens that he let across the border. See, that's the thing. He just accused the President of the United States of just allowing criminals to come over the border and kill people. He has zero proof for that. He couldn't even name an instance where that happened if you were to tell it to him, because it doesn't usually happen, right? Now, I'm not going to say that nobody who ever comes from south of the border never commits a crime, because that's not true. But generally, immigrants of all stripes tend to commit less crime. right? Why is that? Because they're not here to be criminals. They're here to get jobs. You know, these people are coming from countries that are hundreds or thousands of miles away, right? A lot of the times, like we just heard, walking there, people who are walking that incredible distance, right? You don't walk through fucking 10 different countries to go to another country just so you can stick up a liquor store. Alright, that's bullshit. Okay, that doesn't work that way. You don't walk for fucking like 3 years through jungle and shit like that. You know, hitchhiking, fucking basically living homeless for years to come to a place just so that you can, you know, stick people up or sell drugs or break into people's houses. That's bullshit. All right, doesn't usually work that way. You know, even just immigrating normally as a normal person to another country is a major pain in the ass, right? It can take, you have to jump through all kinds of fucking hoops to any country out there, not just the United States. And the United States is particularly bad. It can take up to 20 years to get citizenship in the United States. Did you guys know that? 22 years sometimes. It could take like more than that. So when they talk about things like anchor babies and shit, that's complete bullshit. Okay. Like what? So I'm going to have a baby in the United States that, so that way at 20 years from now I can steal an election? Get the fuck out of here. The anchor baby thing is the dumbest fucking thing ever. Right? But it's like that in every country. I mean, if you wanted to even go to some place like, let's say the UK. Say you wanted to migrate to the UK, are you going to sell everything you have, right? And spend all this money on plane tickets and fly over there trying to find a place to live, all this other shit, so that you can engage in credit card fraud or something? So what? So you can steal cars? Are you going to do all that? Are you going to go through all that shit to be a criminal? No, you're not going to do that. It's the dumbest fucking thing ever. It's the dumbest shit ever. And it's all they have because they have no solutions. They have no policies that actually solves anything. All they have is hatred. Moving on.
Able to get his cabinet together when we hit record fentanyl deaths, which that fentanyl is coming across his open border. It's only when you have 50...
Yeah, okay. Drugs are a major problem in the United States. Yes, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say they aren't. What is the Republican policy to deal with drugs in the United States? Right. Let's say, you have a drug that's easily available that you can get anywhere, and no, fentanyl doesn't exclusively come from south of the border. No, it doesn't. Although a lot of it does, but no, not 100%. Fentanyl is also, manufactured in the United States. Right. What is your solution for that? I can tell you what my solution would be. It would be to say, decriminalize that thing. Offer people help. Right? You look at marijuana in California, there is the illegal marijuana trade is gone. Completely. That's part of the reason why you're seeing shit like heroin and fentanyl and cocaine. Right? Because the cartels used to make a shitload of money with marijuana and they don't anymore. Because now it's legal, now that you can buy it on any fucking corner dispensary. And trust me, there's a fucking shitload of them. They're all over the place, dispensaries. It's awesome. Right. Now that you can do that, they can't make all the money that they used to make. So now they're switching to harder drugs. Right? Well, it just so happens that the whole thing that marijuana is a gateway drug turned out to be complete and total bullshit. Turns out the people interested in smoking marijuana are not interested in cocaine or heroin or fentanyl or anything like that. You know? Now, I'm not going to say that there isn't a problem with those things, because there are. There are definitely addicts all over the fucking place, right? You know, but that isn't because we legalized one drug. You know? So you really want to stop something like that. What you do is you decriminalize it. You know, they've done this in Mexico. They made it so that having small amounts of these drugs is not something you get thrown in prison for. Right? What happens when you decriminalize something? People are more likely to go get help when they have a problem. If you go to jail, let's say if you're a heroin addict, and if you go to jail for just possessing heroin, then you don't want to tell anybody that you have heroin, right? Because you could get thrown in the pokey just for carrying that shit around, right? If you decriminalize it, then you're more likely to be like, hey, I have a problem, I should go seek help. That's the first step. There's lots of other steps. You have to give incentives to people, you know. But there's lots of incentives that you can do. Instead of throwing people in fucking jail for shit, you know. You can get them treatment. You can get them help. You know, drug addiction is a psychological problem. Okay? It's has to do with, you know, you need therapy and shit like that. There's a reason why people do destructive drugs, you know, because it fucking hides reality, and most of the time they're trying to deal with trauma of one type or another, you know. That's ultimately it. There's really no difference between, say, an alcoholic and a heroin addict. Not when you look at it in that perspective. You know, just one of them is into something that's a little more destructive than the other. Right? Ultimately, the root of the problem is the same. This person has some kind of issue that they need to deal with, and they've turned to drugs in order to self-medicate. And that could be lots of different things. It could be, you know, it could be post-traumatic stress disorder because they were in the war. It could be trauma from when they were children. It could be all kinds of shit. But that's what you find. That's what you find with drug addicts. It's very, very rare that somebody who's just into partying becomes an addict. They usually know when to stop, you know. Right? They usually know when to stop. They usually don't get involved with fucking, like, skeezy, crazy people. I mean, yeah, that happens to some people, but this whole thing where it's like, oh, you're just a, you know, out-of-control party girl who ends up a fucking crack-addicted whore sucking dick for, you know, for rock and everything. That's, you know, that's shit you see in the movies. It doesn't really happen, you know, not really. I mean, I'm sure it's happened at some point. I don't know. Anyway, whole point is, what the fuck is his, you know, what's his solution for that? Doesn't fucking have one. You know, I bet his solution is probably rounding up all the drug addicts and sending them to Martha's Vineyard. That's probably his solution.
50 illegal aliens end up in a very wealthy,
all right, let's move that back a little bit.
Order. It's only when you have 50 illegal aliens end up in a very wealthy, rich sanctuary enclave that he decides to scramble on this. And so,
once again, they are not illegal aliens. These people were not illegal aliens. They were not in the country illegally. Ron DeSantis is lying. He lied to all those people, right? All those people laughing it up, you know. Laughing it up because it's all a big fucking joke to these people. It's all a big fucking joke, right? This is the actual rich elite, by the way. You know, they're talking about Martha's Vineyard and all these ivory tower liberals with their fucking leeks and their artichoke, you know, artichoke soup and all this other shit. And their fucking, you know, snooty coffee that they look down on you on when they order it. Here, these are the real rich elites in this country, by the way. Ron DeSantis and his fucking criminal friends behind him, who are exploiting people in order to ruin their fucking lives so that they can make some bonus points in an election. You know, I can't even watch this piece of shit. I swear if this motherfucker becomes president, I don't even fucking know. That's it. That's it for the United States. The United States is over. Do not vote for Ron DeSantis. You know he's running for president, right? I hope he runs. I hope Trump crushes his ass. And then I hope Trump loses. Right. I hope Trump fucking annihilates him when it comes to the primary. You know. And puts Ron DeSantis in his fucking place. Go back to Florida with your goofy, vile ass. And then I hope Trump runs against Joe Biden and just gets fucking, like, stomped. Like, because I know Trump is going to lose. If Trump runs again, I would bet my left nut that Trump loses. Anyway. Fuck this piece of shit. Okay, I'm done with fucking Ron DeSantis. I can't stand this motherfucker anymore. Let's get rid of this. Inshoma! How you doing, man? Let's see. What do you got to say here? The banality of evil and the callous arrogance of the soulless rich DeSantis is thy name. Very well said. Very well said, my friend. So, let's see. Where are we? 12:10. I want to go over a little bit. There's some right-wing misinformation for this stunt. So did you see... Oh, wait. Nope, wrong one. Wrong video. Hang on. Right-wing misinformation. Here we go. So here's something else I want to kind of read to you guys. This is from... Let's turn this window on. Media Matters. Right. And let me just put this down in the chat for you guys so you can see what we're doing. So you'll notice in that video, Ron DeSantis says, oh, it's only when, you know, these people are sent to an island with the rich white rebels that Biden gets his cabinet together, right? That's how they were trying to frame this. So this is right-wing media revive false narratives as migrants sent by DeSantis are relocated from Martha's Vineyard. And the way they're trying to basically... The way they're trying to spin this is that the liberals were all hypocritical. And that's what they're trying to prove. That's what they wanted to get on film. They wanted to get reactions of people from Martha's Vineyard reacting badly and saying that these people don't belong here and shit like that. That's what they were trying to do. Right. So, blah, blah, blah. Basically, this gives an overview, but I want to read some of the reactions from various news sources. This is what Media Matters is great for. They kind of compile all of this stuff together for you. So, from Fox host Dan Bongino, we have this quote. Martha's Vineyard residents did nothing but complain and pull up buses to get people out of the places where they said they wanted to help the illegal immigrants. First off, remember, they're not illegal immigrants, right? This guy, Dan Bongino, just lied. Secondly, he lied again because we saw the reaction. The reaction was they got help, right? There were too many people volunteering to help these people. The exact opposite of what he just said. Fox host Pete Hegseth. Martha's Vineyard residents couldn't tolerate migrants for more than 48 hours and had them deported. Not true. Laura Ingram. Martha's Vineyard residents first tried to virtue signal that they were all welcome, but less than 24 hours after the migrants arrived, they were deported off the island. Once again, complete bullshit. Not what happened. The National Guard moved these people to a migrant center so that they could be processed and so that they could get help with all of their paperwork and shit that Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott purposely sabotaged them on. That's what actually happened, right? Sean Hannity, after a full 24 hours of intense emergency virtue signaling, the island's uber-wealthy, uber-woke residents, they booted all their newly arrived guests out of town. Not true. Exact opposite of what happened. Hannity and DeSantis, Martha's Vineyard residents, were exemplifying racism and xenophobia, and the residents did not welcome them and deported them the next day with the National Guard. Really? You know, DeSantis, remember, he sent a cameraman there. Can we see some of the footage of that? Can you show us, Ron DeSantis, some of the footage of the residents of Martha's Vineyard exemplifying racism and xenophobia? Or is it all complete 100% grade A bullshit that you made up in order to gin up your base because Republicans are a bunch of fucking assholes and all they have is hatred? Is that the real reason? And Shoma, I cannot stay for long, but it's always good to see you, and I wish both of you and Cammy the best in the future moving forward. Oh, well, thanks, dude. Did I tell you, Raph, that, I don't know if you saw the beginning of the stream, I fucking got COVID. Well, not really. Cammy got it, and I'm gonna get it, you know. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat, which actually it was worse yesterday, but today it's actually better than it was yesterday, so maybe I won't come down with full-blown COVID? I don't know, but you can kind of tell in my voice. I got a little bit of a stuffy nose, but my throat is feeling way better than it did yesterday, and I don't have a headache or fever or anything, at least not that I know of. Maybe I should take my temperature after this. So, I don't know, we'll see. Cammy's doing well, though, so thanks, dude. Anyway, Tucker Carlson, the message of the Martha Vineyard residents was, get the hell out of here, brown people. The projection is really hard. They're projecting super duper hard here. Fox host Will Cain, the media are misleadingly painting this story as Martha's Vineyard welcomed the migrants with open arms. Misleadingly painting this story. Because even though the community worked together to provide food and shelter, we can run video of them loading the illegal immigrants onto a bus out of town and chanting Te Amo. Let's see it. What does Te Amo mean anyway? I don't know what that means. What I don't speak. I took 2 years of Spanish. I have no idea what Te Amo means. What does Te Amo? It means I love you. So wait a minute. How is chanting I love you? So he just said that they loaded them on buses and said, we love you. Right, basically. And then he also said they worked together to provide food and shelter. How is that misleadingly painting a story that Martha's Vineyard welcomed all the migrants with open arms? It's like he told you the facts and then told you in the same sentence to not trust the facts that he just told you. This is like brainwashing right here. Okay, when you're supposed to believe the authority over what you see with your own eyes. It's like, don't trust your lying eyes. Put your faith in me, I'll tell you the truth. Yeah, that's fucking brainwashing. Is what that is. Newsmax host Rob Schmidt. It barely took 24 hours for residents of this all-white, wealthy summer island to band together and kick out 48 brown people who dare invade their idyllic setting. Lied once again. Also, Martha's Vineyard is not all white. Barack Obama lives there. Kamala Harris lives there. It's not all white. Let's see. More. One American News Network host Dan Ball. Only after just a handful of illegals get dumped into someone's backyard are some liberals and lying mainstream media paying attention to the outright invasion of the southern border. Once again, these people were not illegal. They were not illegal aliens. They are people who are following the law specifically. Ron DeSantis fucked them up. Right. By completely making it impossible for them to follow the law. Ron DeSantis broke the law here, not them. Alright, I need another cough drop. And Shoma, I know about the COVID, that's what I was referring to. Sorry to hear this. Oh, yeah, well, she's okay. She's recovered now. She said her fever's gone this morning, so it looks like the worst of it's, finished. I'm hoping I don't come down with it. I felt worse, yes, but I do, I have that lethargic thing going, where you ever feel like you can kind of feel it coming on, so I'm hoping it doesn't get bad, but I'm probably going to get sick. We'll see. I do feel better than I did yesterday, so maybe it won't be too bad. Alright. Dan Ball. This nation is facing a massive invasion, and Joe Biden's unwillingness to secure our southern border has become a national security risk. I like how it just begins with Joe Biden. It's like, oh, suddenly Joe Biden's the president. All of a sudden, yeah. Now we have this giant fucking crisis. You know. Anyway, you get the idea, folks. Enough of this shit. Let's turn this fucking crap off. Can only listen to so much of this bullshit before I, like, want to go, I don't know, torture something. Right. So anyway, this is from the Texas Tribune. I'm not going to open this up, but I'll just copy the link, right, and put this down in the chat for you guys. From the Texas Tribune, there's the link. A spokesperson for Ron DeSantis called the lawyers representing the migrant activists, right? The transportation of the immigrants to Martha's Vineyard was done on a voluntary basis. The immigrants were homeless, hungry, and abandoned, and these activists didn't care about them then. Florida's program gave them a fresh start and a sanctuary state, and these individuals opted to take advantage of chartered flights to Massachusetts. It was disappointing that Martha's Vineyard called in the Massachusetts National Guard to bust them away from the island within 48 hours. That is the official spokesperson from Ron DeSantis. The official spokesperson for the governor of Florida. Spreading lies like that. What that person just said is a major 100% lie. That whole thing, right? It was not voluntary. They were misled, right? They were not sent there for a fresh start in a sanctuary state. If it was a fresh start, they would have called ahead, told them that they were coming, right? They would have coordinated with the people in Massachusetts. So it wasn't a fresh start. They're lying, right? You know, they did not opt to take care of these flights, you know, to do this. Like, they were lied to. These people were lied to, taken advantage of for a fucking stunt, for a political stunt, right? It's the most despicable shit ever. So there has been some consequences because of this. You know, first off, a class action lawsuit has started, which would for the actual people who were harmed, the actual 50 migrants who were harmed. They're suing the state of Florida and Ron DeSantis. I can't see. I was not able to find out for how much, but that's good. And seeing what actually happened in this case, I think they're gonna win. I think they're gonna win. Here's the thing that I wanted to show you guys here. Let me see here. I have here the pamphlet. Where is it? There we go. Let me put this down for you guys here, just to kind of show you, like, because this is, you know, this wasn't just, oh, you want to get on this thing and whatever. To kind of show you how premeditated this was, right? Here's the actual pamphlet that was handed to the people on this plane. This is from Slate. The fake pamphlet given to Martha's Vineyard migrants is very funny and also possibly criminal evidence, right? So they printed out this pamphlet. You'll notice that this flag is not the Massachusetts state flag. They found this online. Whether that was a joke or whether the person who actually put together this pamphlet didn't know this wasn't the Massachusetts fake flag, I don't know. But it's a pamphlet that has, you know, excuse me. These, you know, it says these are the benefits that you're going to get once you come to Massachusetts. Remember, these people thought they were being flown to Boston, you know, not Martha's Vineyard. That's another thing, right? Let's see. There's more here. So yeah, you can see this is a flag that they just searched on Google image search and found this flag off of some dude's, like, Twitter, right? Here's the actual insides of the pamphlet. So you can see this is all the stuff that you're going to get. They were promised assistance with housing. Can you read that? Let me make that a little bit bigger. So see if we can read that. Oh, it won't let me zoom in on it. That's kind of... That sucks, Twitter. Twitter does not increase the size of the picture. I can't zoom in any further. But what it says here, says this is what you're going to get. Assistance with housing, furnishings, food, and other basic necessities. Clothing and transportation to job interviews and job training. Assistance in applying for Social Security cards. registering children for school, using public transportation, community and cultural orientation. And then it has it in Spanish, right? I mean, the thing is, if it was legit, right? If it was like, oh, we're just going to send these guys here, blah, 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 and it was all a big mistake, whatever. That's one thing. But they purposely went, printed out these pamphlets, handed them out, and gave these people other incentives to go there. It was part of a plan. That shows that this was premeditated. That shows that this was part of it was a stunt in order to fool these people, you know, into getting onto this plane and to mislead them, right? Well, that's fraud and possibly kidnapping. You can't, like, you know, like, let's say if I were to charter a boat and be like, okay, this boat goes to Hawaii. It's a Hawaii cruise. And a bunch of people pay me to get on my Hawaii cruise. And then instead of taking them to Hawaii, I take them to North Korea and just drop them off. Be like, all right, guys, thanks, later. Right? That's fraud. That's fraud. It doesn't matter if it was voluntary. You're not, you know, it's like, okay, well, they voluntarily got on my boat to take care of, you know, take advantage of my North Korea cruise. It's like, bullshit. I would go to prison for that. Ron DeSantis does it. And all of his fucking criminal donors laugh at his jokes. And, like, you know, probably gonna fucking win re-election because of that shit. So just wanted to kind of show that to you guys. Because that's, you know, despicable and fucking horrible. Something you guys may not have been known about this is that this is not the first time that these types of stunts have been happening. Apparently, Texas has been doing this for quite some time, sending busloads of asylum seekers and you know, immigrants and things like that, specifically sending them to Washington D.C. Apparently, this has been a thing that Greg Abbott, in his like infinite wisdom, thought was a fine and dandy idea, and has been sending people, giving them one-way bus tickets to Washington D.C. Right. Apparently, by August of this year, they've sent over 6,000 people from Texas to Washington, D.C. You know. And he kind of gives the same bullshit response that we just heard from Ron DeSantis. It's like, oh, I'm giving these people, you know, a fresh start in a sanctuary city. And then plus, you know, this is so the people in Washington can see what the real problem is, you know. Once again, you notice that California isn't busing migrants anywhere. You know. It's only Texas. It's only Arizona. It's only Florida. You know, once again, because racism. That's the reason behind all of this. Because racism. If these people were German or French or Canadian, they wouldn't be busing them to other cities, right? If these people were white, you know, why don't I just say it, right? Why don't I just say it? If these were white people, they wouldn't be busing them to other cities, right? They're doing it because they're brown people, right? That's the fucking reason why. Such bullshit. Also, the governor of Arizona has been doing the exact same thing, sending migrants to Washington, D.C. His name's Doug Ducey, by the way. He has the most cringe-inducing name ever. Doug Ducey is a giant piece of shit as well. You know, another idiotic, brainless conservative with no fucking ideas that thinks the point of government is to personally enrich himself and to smite his political enemies. That's Doug Ducey. You know, fuck him and the horse he rode in on. He's been doing the exact same thing, aping, you know, Greg Abbott's fucking migrant program, because Republicans have no fucking original ideas, so they just, you know, imitate each other. All right. This has kind of been going on for years. Here is Abbott has also been sending people to Chicago. Right. So basically, they're just they're putting people on buses and sending them around to what they perceive as liberal cities, cities in blue states. You know, almost kind of like you deal with this problem. That's kind of what they've been doing, right? And this has been going on for a very long time. You know. Here's one from July 22. Adams claims Texas, Arizona busting asylum seekers to New York. I want to open this one. Let me see. Open that link. Come on, open up. Thank you. All right. This is from Politico. I'll put this down in the chat for you guys as well. And let's turn on our window. Same thing. This is from earlier this year, from July. So you can see that this is not a new thing. Right. Adams claims Texas, Arizona busing asylum seekers to New York. So Adams is the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, right? Mayor Eric Adams is attributing a surge in the city's homeless shelter population to asylum seekers being bussed into New York from other parts of the country, citing 2,800 people entering the system in recent weeks. So, first off, I want you to think about this a little bit. What point are they trying to make? Like, why send migrants to New York? Or I can understand Washington D.C. It's like, okay, you know, if you're really trying to get across the point that, you know, this is a major crisis and you guys aren't doing anything about it in Washington, that makes sense, right? I could even understand sending them to Kamala Harris's house. I mean, it's ridiculous, vile bullshit, but I understand the reasoning behind it. But why New York? What's up in New York? You know? What, no fucking conservatives live in New York? Trump is from New York, for fuck's sake. Rudy Giuliani lived in New York, right? I mean, you know, so what are they, they're basically doing it because it's a culture war thing. Because they're dumbass fucking, like, brainless, you know, brainless base who pull the lever for these shitbags every 2 years likes it when the people that they consider their enemies get smited. That's the entire fucking reason why they're doing it. People in New York have no control over what happens at the southern border. Okay, you could say people in Washington maybe do. Maybe the you know, the representatives there in Washington maybe could do something about it. What the fuck is New York supposed to do about people coming through the border in Texas? You know, nothing. They can't do fucking shit about that. So why are they sending them to New York? They're doing it because they're assholes. They're assholes. This is what all is. This is what all of this comes down to. Republicans are vile, violent assholes. One thing I wanted to read here. Basically, this goes on to say that, you know, number of homeless people have spiked, right? Because, once again, they're sending them to New York on a bus ticket. They just go, here you go. They get off. There's nothing there for them, right? You know, they're basically going, here, this is your problem. Take that, is what they're doing with these things. It's not like there's going to be more services in New York than there are in San Antonio. You know, what you could do in Texas is they could actually spend a little bit of money and set up shelters and shit and try to, like, process these people and get them jobs and stuff. They could try to fucking do that, and it would benefit them in the long run, because the more people you have in your state, the larger your economy is. But they don't want to do that. Why? Because these people are brown. That's why. And that's what I mean when I say it's all racism. It's all racism. Right? Texas is the largest fucking state in the country, well, next to Alaska, but it's gigantic. Texas takes like 4 days to fucking drive across. There's more than enough room in Texas. Right? You could build multiple cities in fucking Texas. More than enough fucking room. You know, it's not like, oh, they're taking all the jobs and all the bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. It's complete, total fucking bullshit. These people don't show up, steal your job. You know where these people work? They work in car washes. They pick fucking vegetables. They work in slaughterhouses. Something like 90% of all the people that work in American slaughterhouses are undocumented immigrants, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that. And like I said, you could stop this overnight. You could just go to those employers and be like, we catch you doing this, you get 20 years in jail. The end. And this shit would end. And all these people would leave because there would be no work for them. They don't want to do that because that'll ruin the fucking economy. That's the reason why. And they need the cheap labor. So these are the people that they're being exploited 15 ways to Sunday. And that's the ultimate. The real losers in these situations are the migrants who come here for a better life and end up getting exploited the same way they were being exploited back at home. It's all fucked up. There is one part of this I really wanted to read to you guys. The reaction. Here we go. This is from, now tell me if this sounds familiar. The reaction. Renee Ease, a spokesperson for Texas Governor Abbott, said the state has only been busing migrants to Washington, D.C., transporting over 5,100 people since April. It's like, oh, okay, first off, we're not sending them to New York, we're just sending them to Washington, D.C., sending over 5,100 people. It is now over 6,000, by the way, because this was back in July. Quote, if these Democrat mayors are now that concerned about having migrants in their cities, they should call on President Biden to do his job and secure the border instead of attacking Texas with baseless political accusations, she said. Baseless political accusations. She just admitted right up here the state has been busing migrants to Washington, over 5,100 people, but yet somehow that is a baseless political accusation. The audacity of that. How can anybody read that and be like, these are the people I want to vote for? This is who I want representing me. Yeah, this person really cares. They speak to me. They know what my, I agree with this 100%. How can anybody read this shit? Anybody with a soul read this shit? I guess not. I guess MAGA people are, once all you have is hate. When that is the reason for your fucking existence is hate, it's easy to just get lost in the cruelty. Unbelievable. Wanted to read that for you guys, because that one I thought was like kind of telling, kind of fucked up. What else do I got here? We're at 12:36. Something that may interest you folks. This is, of course, not the first time that, excuse me, getting a little stuffy. This is, of course, not the first time that they've been doing stuff like this. Something that you may be interested in is the fact that red states have been busing their homeless populations to blue states for decades. This is a thing I remember happening way back in the 90s, right? I remember reading about this in the newspaper and stuff, that states like Iowa and Texas and Arizona, Nevada, and whatnot, they started a program called Homeward Bound. And the idea was that, okay, if you have a relative in another state that you can stay with, then we'll give you a free bus ticket so that you can go stay with them. That sounds great. I think that's an awesome thing. And I'm glad to see that California now does this as well. But that's not what actually happens. What ends up happening is kind of the exact same thing that happened with these migrants. They basically go and entice homeless people onto getting onto a one-way bus and dropping them off in San Francisco. San Francisco is a very popular target, right? At one point, San Diego is another popular target, as well as Los Angeles. At one point, Gavin Newsom, because he used to be the mayor of San Francisco, claimed that the majority of homeless people were being sent in San Francisco were being sent from Texas, right? The evidence he used for that was their own Homeward Bound program that they started to help people, and they found when people said, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Texas." Right? Now, that turned out not to be true. The majority of homeless people in San Francisco are not from Texas. But a significant number of them are. And that was definitely a thing that we were seeing for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. And it's not only the, let me see here. Here's another one. San Diego DA calls Nashville busing program outrageous. I won't open this, but let me just copy the link and put it down for you guys. Just so you know that I'm not making this stuff up, there's a link. Basically details how people from Nashville, Tennessee, homeless people from Nashville, Tennessee, were being bussed over to San Diego. I remember reading an article, I couldn't find it, from, I think it was 2005, where a city in Colorado was sending mental patients to San Francisco. They were basically, they were sending people that were, like, outpatient, like, people that should be, like, committed, for, like, being, mentally ill, sending them over to San Francisco. And then also another article I remember from around that same period where homeless people with chronic illnesses were being bused to San Francisco. That one really fucked me up because it was, and I couldn't find it. I looked really hard for this yesterday. Couldn't find it. It was a story about a guy who was a paraplegic, and this was in 2005, who was just dumped out of a hospital in Colorado. And what happened is that they basically put him on a bus and sent him to fucking Los Angeles. And this was a guy that he was homeless, he was paralyzed from the fucking neck down, and they found him on the street on Skid Row. And this dude's paralyzed, he's basically shit himself, right? Couldn't move, like basically all he could do was like crawl by moving his chin and shit, So like sort of inchworming his way down the street, like diaper was full because, the guy's fucking paralyzed. He can't go to the bathroom normally, right? And they found him and they found out where he was from, and it was like, God, just inhumane. And the last I remember, this dude was suing like everybody, and I hope he fucking won. I hope he won and is getting the care he needs, if he's even still alive. I mean, this was 17 years ago at this point. So that's definitely a thing with the homeless people. That's been happening. Like, here's another one. This one, actually, let's open this one. This one's actually funny. This is from Mother Jones. And let me see here. Mother Jones, let me put this down in the chat for you guys. And let's turn it back on. Dear Nevada, fuck you. Sincerely, San Francisco. Right. This is from October of 2015. So just to kind of, that's 7 years at this point. Please remember that this was happening way before 2015. For years, Las Vegas Ronson Neal Psychiatric Hospital, Nevada's primary state mental facility, gave discharged patients a bus ticket out of town. Poor and mentally ill, they ended up homeless in cities around the country, especially California, where more than 500 psychiatric patients were sent over a 5-year period. From Las Vegas, Nevada. 24 of these patients landed in San Francisco, costing the city hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical care, housing, and services. Now Nevada has agreed to cover the cost, most of them at least, blah, blah, blah. They got sued for $400,000 by a class action lawsuit. So basically, this is just one instance. It's really fucked up. This has been going on for a long time. 500 mentally ill patients, homeless people, sent from Nevada to San Francisco. Just one instance of that happening. Oh, let me go back to my... That's my other desktop window, you can see. There you go. Sorry about that. So, yeah, just to kind of show you what's happening, right? It's fucked up, folks. You notice that you never see this kind of thing happening from blue states. There is now, before I need to temper that, there is a homeward bound program in San Francisco and Los Angeles. And what they do is they verify that you actually have a place to live, that you can go stay with relatives or something, right? And they give you a bus ticket to go stay with them, right? They call ahead first, right? So, now if you want to call that dumping, that's a lot different than getting a mentally ill person, throwing them on a bus and getting rid of them. That's a lot different than sending over migrants, right? Who are, trying to make a better life in this country and then falsifying their paperwork so they get fucked up and end up getting deported. That's a lot different than getting a guy who's, paralyzed from the fucking neck down, dumping him on the middle of the street in another city where he has no friends, doesn't know anybody, and fucking ends up homeless, right? Exactly, Adversary Fandon, you're exactly right. The cruelty is the point. One more thing before we end this, because we're almost at the end. I wanted to show you guys something that I thought was interesting. And let me see here. This is from... There's 2 links I've got. Let me copy this. This is an article about it. And then I also want to put the Wikipedia page so that you can read this all for your own thing. This is something called the Reverse Freedom Rides. Let me copy this, copy link. So there's an article about it, and then this is the actual Wikipedia page there. So what are the Reverse Freedom Rides? Well, so the Freedom Rides way back in the during the Civil Rights era was a movement for people that would ride down to the South and essentially help people get ready to vote. That was what the Freedom Rides were all about, right? Essentially. And the Reverse Freedom Rides that were organized by white supremacists in the South were about defrauding black families and giving them one-way tickets to northern cities. Kind of sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? This is part of the dark side of American history that they don't teach you. They didn't teach you this. When you learn about the civil rights movement when you're in junior high school, what do they tell you? You learn about Martin Luther King Jr., you learn about the I Have a Dream speech, you learn about the Civil Rights Act, maybe they might touch on somebody like Malcolm X, but most likely won't. They don't tell you that there were organized white supremacists that were defrauding entire families, putting them on buses, saying that, hey, here's a one-way ticket to this city up north where you can get a job, you can get a house, all this other stuff. It's there waiting for you. And then when they get there, there's nothing there. Kind of sounds exactly like what Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott did. So just once again, want to show that to you guys. These were, if you guys don't know, the white citizen councils were basically organized groups of white supremacists, and they would pretend to be, we're concerned citizens and shit like that, right? And what they really were basically pro-segregationists, right? Groups like the Congress of Racial Equality, stuff like that. That's actually in the link there, Definitely worth reading about. And, maybe if we taught some of this history in our classrooms, shit like this wouldn't happen. Maybe if we were taught in grade school or in junior high school about this type of exploitive, fraud that just seems to keep coming from the same groups of fucking people. The right wing just seems to love to bust people out of their cities. Maybe if we learned about this, people's bullshit meters would be a little more sharpened, and assholes like Ron DeSantis wouldn't get away with it. But no, that's CRT, right, folks? That's critical race theory. That's been outlawed in Florida. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? This is why it matters who you vote for. If anybody out there that still believes in that myth, that both sides are the same, if anybody out there is still saying that same tired bullshit, it doesn't matter who you vote for, they're all the same thing, you would never see shit like this coming out of a blue state. You know, it doesn't happen. The red states do this all the time. Red state governors and people like fucking Sheriff Joe Arpaio and all that other shit, they do stunts like this all the time, specifically targeting, you know, Democrats in Democratic cities or whatever. You never ever see this type of, these stunts, these pathetic, ridiculous, borderline illegal stunts coming out of, from Democratic left-wing politicians. Maybe we should start doing it. Maybe we should just like give them a piece of their own medicine. You know, maybe we should start busing criminals. Be like, hey, you can get out of jail if you get a one-way ticket to fucking Texas. How about that? Maybe we should give them a little piece of their own medicine. That'll never fucking happen. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to do that anyway. You know, because it's wrong. Right? It's wrong, and we shouldn't do shit like that. Because, you know, we, on the left, have fucking this thing called integrity that the right wing doesn't have. Anyway, folks, please get out there and vote, especially if you live in a southern state. Get out there and vote. It's the only way this shit is ever going to stop, is that if they're not in power, right? That's all I got, folks. It's 10 till, but I actually am feeling a little, I think I might actually have a fever now. Shit, I hope not. My eyes are getting a little weary. I might have to go take a nap. But if you like what I do and you want to, you know, help out the channel, I do have an SD shop here that I can, let me just go to my, let me open up all of my social medias and stuff here. So, you know, hopefully next week I won't be sick. Hopefully I'll be able to like stream next Saturday. But if you like what I do and you want to help me out, you know, monetarily, let me turn on my thing here. You can go to my SD shop and buy something. I got stuff here. If you want to see more of my artwork, I have a DeviantArt gallery. I should probably use something else besides DeviantArt. DeviantArt is, you know, whatever. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll open up another gallery some other place. I have a webcomic. It has ninjas. It has talking, you know, ducks in it, stuff like that. And I have another YouTube channel where I basically play with toys and video games and stuff. I've made a couple of new videos there recently, so please check me out across all of my other social medias, etc. I'll put links down in the thing. Thank you guys so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Raph. Thank you, Adversary Fandon. Thank you, anybody else who commented and was watching all the way to the end. You guys are great. Hopefully I will be back next Saturday. Hopefully I will not be too sick to stream, but we'll see how it goes. I think I need to go take a nap now, so adios, folks. I am out of here.